to our video on Unit 5.3 of Topic 5, IB Biology, Evolution and Biodiversity. This unit we are focusing on the classification and biodiversity. 5.3 will be divided into two videos, and this is the first one. Okay, so what we're going to look at first of all is this whole concept of evolution and biodiversity and the meaning of those two terms in biology. Okay, so when you think about it, over billions of years there's been many changes in life on Earth, and this has been via that process of evolution. Now this has led to this incredibly diverse array of life on our planet. Now 5.3 will focus on how we classify this huge range of living organisms and this huge biodiversity that we find on the planet Earth. As part of this, you have got your international mindedness, and that's where we'll be looking at the different codes of classification and the agreements that have been made to follow these principles, so that living organisms on planet Earth are classified and known about via that classification all around the globe. We also cover areas of theory of knowledge as well. Okay, so we're looking at that adoption of a binomial system of classification. And this was developed by a Swedish botanist called Carlos Linnaeus, who identified 4 groups of humans, and the divisions were based on both physical and social traits. And by the 21st century standards, his descriptions would now be regarded as racist. How does the social context of scientific work therefore affect the methods and findings of research? It's necessary to consider the social context when evaluating ethical aspects of knowledge claims. Okay, so what were the social contexts at the time that Linnaeus made these claims? And they were very, very different times to ours now. Okay, so let's get started, and let's cast your minds back to Year 7 Science, where you were first introduced to the classification of living organisms. And you would have learned back then that we have our kingdoms, our phylum, our class, our order, our families, our genus and our species. We're going to look further into this, so don't worry if these things have slipped your mind. So our binomial system of classification is also known as binomial nomenclature, and that is the system that you would have been taught back in Year 7. So we have our category and our taxon. The binomial system of classification then. The classification of living things is a method of organising them into groups. Groups are based on similarities, usually physical, that's shared between the organisms. Taxonomy is the science of identifying, naming and grouping these organisms. Binomial, this means each species is given 2 names, usually both in Latin. It was developed by Carlos Linnaeus, as we've already said, and he was this Swedish botanist and taxonomist. This system is still used today. So we see here we've got binomial, which means 2 name, and nomenclature, which means system of naming. And we have our example there, one that you would have all heard of, Homo sapiens. So when we're looking at this binomial system of classification, there's some terms that you need to know. You need to know the genus, okay? This is the first part of the name. This indicates a group of species that are very closely related and share a common ancestor. The genus name is always written starting with an uppercase letter. The species name, which is the second name, is usually defined as a group of individuals that are capable of interbreeding to produce fertile offspring. The species name is always written in lowercase. When typing, always put names in italics, or if handwriting, for example in exams, always underline the name. Okay, so there we've got our rules again with our example of our Homo sapiens. Okay, so here we've got our example of our Homo sapiens, and we've got it in order of our classification. Okay, so you've got your species, which is Homo sapien. You've got the genus is Homo, family is hominids, the order is the primates, the class, they're mammals, phylum, chordates, or backbones, and the kingdom, they come from the animal kingdom, Animalia. So here we've got some examples of some big cats, okay? And if you look at their scientific names, okay, you'll see that in some cases they're all similar. Okay, Neil, they all are closely related because they all belong to the same genera. However, this also shows that there are two subspecies of tiger which are indicated with two species names. So they're all pantheras. Okay, but then we've got the two tigers, the two subspecies. Here we've got some sharks. Now, which two do you think are closely related? So have a look at their names. Okay, and the two on the end, Carcinhinus. Okay, those two have got the same name, so they are closer related than the one in the center there. Okay, so which two species of dog are most closely related? They would be the two Canis lupus. Okay, so the domestic dog and the Tibetan wolf are closer related than the red wolf is. And it's down to that naming. Now, you can't trust. The reason we do this is because you can't trust the names given to things. You look at all four of these pictures here, they're all dragons of some kind. Okay, but they're very, very different, aren't they? And they're definitely not the same species at all. We've got the snapdragon, the bearded dragon, an actual weird kind of dragon, and a sea dragon. But they're very, very different species. So common names can easily be confused. That's why we need our binomial classification systems in place. Okay, so we've got this international cooperation and classification. So globally, scientists work together to name things. Now, scientists use a binomial naming system to identify a species rather than having too many local different names. Things would get confusing if we all had our own local name. So scientists naming organisms sometimes have a sense of humour, and we've got a few examples shown here. Okay, we've got Albinua groengi. Okay, and this is a sea snail named after the cartoonist that created The Simpsons, Matt Groening. We've got Agra schwarzeneggeri. Okay, the Costa Rican ground beetle named after Arnold Schwarzenegger because the insect's large biceps. Dracula vampura. This orchid in Ecuador got its name from the fact that the petals look like bat wings. Spongiforma square pantsy. SpongeBob SquarePants there. And here we've got Agra Schwarzenegger. That is actually for real as well, guys. Okay, so the hierarchy of taxa and their domains. So the term taxon, singular taxa, is used to arrange and classify organisms. So at the top of the hierarchy are the three largest groups. So we call them the domains. Okay, so animal, plants, and archaea. So we've got archaea, eubacteria, sorry, I'd done kingdoms just now, archaea, eubacteria, and eukaryota. The original categories of eukaryote and prokaryote are now considered inappropriate because prokaryotes have been found to be very diverse. So this is an area that's continuously changing with more and more research. So looking at the domains, here this table is showing us our three domains. We've got the locations where they're found. Okay, we've got some examples and some other information that could be of interest about each one. Maybe pause this and take a note. Again, we've got some more information here about each type of domain. Again, you could pause this and take some notes. And more information. Some of this information may overlap, so feel free just to make a table where you can record just some notes on each. Okay, finally we're going to have a quick look at viruses to end video 1. Now, viruses are unique. We all know that at the moment. But how do we actually classify a virus? Which domain does a virus fall into? Now, they contain genetic information, yet the problem is they cannot reproduce when they're outside of a host cell. They don't feed, grow, or metabolize in the way that living organisms do. So they're actually considered to be non-living. Okay, that is until they are within a host cell. Therefore, they don't fall into any of the domains because all of the three domains are classed as living organisms, and viruses are not alive unless they're in a host cell. So as a result, they're treated separately, and virologists have their own classification system. That might be something you're interested to look into, especially in the current climate of the world. And this is the end of video 1 on 5.3. Take it easy and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, The ABCs of STEM. See you in the next video.